In Search of Lost Time was written by Marcel Proust between 1913 and 1927. It is one of the greatest achievements of modern literature. Spread across 7 volumes, the novel explores memory, time, love, art, identity, social class, jealousy, and human consciousness. Rather than following a conventional plot, Proust presents an inward psychological journey in which the unnamed narrator gradually discovers that the purpose of his life lies in transforming his experiences into art. The novel revolutionized 20th century fiction through its deep introspection, complex narrative style, and philosophical reflections on the nature of memory and existence. The story begins with the narrator recalling his childhood in the small French town of Cambrai. His earliest memories are dominated by his emotional dependence on his mother, particularly his longing for her nightly goodnight kiss. These childhood experiences establish one of the novel's central themes: the emotional power of memory. Years later, while absent mindedly eating a madeleine dipped in tea, the narrator experiences an overwhelming flood of involuntary memories. The taste instantly transports him back to his childhood Sundays at his Aunt Leonie's house. This famous Madeleine episode demonstrates Prost's belief that genuine memories emerge unexpectedly through sensory experiences rather than deliberate recollection. Such involuntary memories reveal hidden truths about life and become the foundation of artistic creation. The first volume also recounts the tragic love story of Charles Swann and Odette de Crécy Swann, an intelligent and cultured aristocrat, initially finds Odette rather than ordinary and unattractive. However, after repeatedly encountering her in Parisian salons and associating her with a beautiful musical phrase from Vintouillet's sonata, he gradually falls passionately in love. His love soon turns into obsessive jealousy as he constantly suspects Odette of infidelity with both men and women. Swan's emotional suffering illustrates one of Prost's major insights. Romantic love is often based more on imagination, insecurity, and desire than on genuine knowledge of another person. Swan realizes that his intense passion had been directed towards someone who never truly deserved such devotion. As the narrative progresses, the young narrator himself experiences similar illusions in his own relationships. His youthful affection for Gilbert Swan, Swan's daughter, develops into an emotional obsession. He interprets every gesture, silence, and an expression as evidence of either affection or rejection. However, as he grows older, he recognizes that much of his suffering was created by his own imagination rather than by reality. This realization becomes a recurring pattern throughout the novel as nearly every romantic relationship ends in disappointment because individuals never fully understand one another. The narrator later spends time in the seaside town of Baalbek, where he encounters a lively group of young women. Among them, Albertine Simonet captures his attention and gradually becomes the central figure of his emotional life. His fascination with Albertine develops into possessiveness, anxiety, and obsessive jealousy. Rumors concerning her possible lesbian relationships intensify his suspicions, leading him to monitor her movements constantly and eventually persuade her to live under his supervision in Paris. Ironically, the closer Albertine becomes physically, the more psychologically distant she appears. Their relationship becomes prison for both lovers, illustrating Proust's argument that possessive love destroys freedom while never eliminating uncertainty. When Albertine suddenly leaves him and later dies in a riding accident, the narrator experiences profound grief. But even after her death, his jealousy continues as he desperately seeks information about her past relationships. Gradually, time weakens his attachment, demonstrating another important truth in process philosophy. Even the deepest emotions eventually fade. Human feelings are not permanent but constantly transformed by memory and the passage of time. The narrator eventually recognizes that what he mourned was not Albertine herself, but the imagined version of her created by his own desires. Alongside these personal experiences, Proust offers a sweeping portrait of French society during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The aristocratic Gourmanders family represents the old nobility, while the Verdurins symbolize the ambitious bourgeoisie seeking social recognition. Throughout the novel, the narrator initially idealizes the aristocracy, believing its members possess superior refinement, intelligence, and culture. However, once admitted into their exclusive salons, he discovers vanity, prejudice, and superficial conversation along with moral emptiness. Social prestige proves to be little more than an illusion maintained through tradition and performance. The novel also examines the political and cultural tensions of the period through references to the Dreyfus affair, which divided French society. Many aristocrats openly express anti Semitic attitudes, revealing the hypocrisy and intolerance beneath their polished manners. Jewish identity, social prejudice, and exclusion become recurring concerns throughout the narrative. Proust explores homosexuality through complex characters such as Baron de Charles and Albertine. Rather than presenting sexuality in simplistic moral terms, he portrays it as a hidden aspect of identity shaped by secrecy, fear, and social repression. These portrayals were remarkably bold for their time and contributed significantly to the novel's psychological realism. Another theme is the relationship between art and life. Throughout much of the novel, the narrator struggles unsuccessfully to become a writer. He feels intellectually incapable and wastes years pursuing pleasure, social status, and romantic attachments. Only after a series of involuntary memories does he finally understand that the purpose of his experiences was never simply to live them, but to transform them into literature. Every joy, disappointment, loss, and memory acquires meaning when interpreted through artistic creation. Art alone possesses the power to preserve moments that ordinary time would otherwise erase. The final volume, Time Regained, brings the narrator's long intellectual journey to completion. After years of illness and the devastation of the First World War, he returns to Paris and notices that nearly everyone he once knew has grown old. The elegant aristocrats of his youth appear physically transformed, while the social hierarchy itself has shifted dramatically. Time has altered faces, fortunes, reputations, and relationships beyond recognition. This shocking realization emphasizes the novel's central meditation. Everything in human life is subject to change. The decisive moment arrives when the narrator accidentally steps on an uneven paving stone, triggering another powerful involuntary memory similar to the Madeline episode. He suddenly understands that these spontaneous memories briefly unite past and present, allowing an individual to transcend ordinary chronological time. Through these revelations, he discovers his vocation as a writer. His mission is to recover lost time by transforming memory into literature and revealing the hidden connections between seemingly unrelated experiences.